Welcome everyone to Living in Faith. I'm your host, Giovanna Tardarone.
And I am your co-host, Pablo Sanchez. A pleasure to be here, Gigi.
Likewise, welcome, Pablo. Welcome everyone. So today's show, we're going to be talking about walking in peace, confidence, and divine purpose. And it's we're in a world of where we see that it's unsettled. There is no peace out there, right? So how can we feel at peace when we're seeing all this going on? And we are very concerned. So I thought today's show would be good to just like bring it back in because the peace that we're seeking has to start with us. So, Pablo, let's talk about how when we allow God to speak to us, how that can bring peace into our internal state.
It's amazing. Thank you very much, Gigi. It's a great topic, one that uh, while you were making the introduction, two things came to mind. One of them being somebody that has a relationship with God, and then another one, somebody that doesn't have a relationship with God, but yet is being called for His divine purpose. Now, the best example that I can share with you guys, with everyone right now, is that of the story of Simon and his brother Andrew, right? Think about that. Simon and Andrew, they're out by the Sea of Galilee. They're fishermen. They're fishermen. They know what they're going to do every day. They know what time they have to get up. They have everything. Their lives are all set. His wife knows exactly where he's going to be at what time he comes home. He's going to everything. His life is all completely set as what he's supposed to. They're fishermen. The fishermen. So that's their purpose. And then along comes Jesus, and then Jesus says, come, follow me. Follow me. When he says follow me, he's not just saying follow me. What he's saying is come, learn from me, walk with me, and stay with me. And then right now, what the reason I mentioned that is because here you have a couple of if if fishermen, they did not have a they were all waiting for the Messiah. They're all waiting for the Messiah, and then here he comes, come follow me. He does not identify himself as the Messiah right there and then, but they have a certain belief that, that the Messiah is coming, and then certainly he says, comes follow me. After he performs this great miracle of bringing all this fish into the nets where he seemed everything impossible. So they leave everything behind and they follow Jesus. Eh, so one I think that we all have a sense of faith, but the question is, how deep is your faith? How deep is your faith? Because when
Mhm.
you get into that, uh, you can be a little bit like Simon and Andrew, and you can say, you know what, this is what. According to them back then, they were all just living under the Old Testament. They're talking about primarily Isaiah, and they're like everything that the promises that from God, the promises made to Abraham. They were living under that, and then here comes this guy, and he's showing something that like a sign of what they were looking for. So certainly they had some type of faith. How deep was their faith? The faith is once they follow God, once they follow Jesus, their faith just he says, "Come walk with me, come be in my presence." That's the big message right here, right? It's
That's
just
how they gain the
follow me.
confidence, right?
Exactly, and that's where when you get into this thing, into following Jesus, right? eh, you really what you find is but how do we follow him right now, you can say, right? And my answer to you is always through the scriptures. Through the scriptures. When you read your scriptures, before you start reading them, ask God, what is the message that you have for me right here right now? And you'll be completely amazed how it will transform your whole life.
Let me
And
add to that, Pablo, because you do that every morning, right? Religiously, you do that every morning. But there's also the next step, because if you don't take action, if you don't do what you're reading, right? If you don't follow those scriptures, it's one thing to read. We can all read a book, but the point of reading it is only this first step. The second step is to abide by it and actually take the same action. And that's when the miracles come, right?
completely, Gigi, completely, and doesn't come as different parts in the Bible. It says, it calls us to pray without ceasing, because we're supposed to stay that like that, remain with God in everything that we do. So
Mhm.
when we do that, we're definitely learning from Him, and then what happens is. From our time when we're looking into the prosperity aspect of life, we're looking at what Napoleon Hill used to say, right? He used to say that really was Earl Nightingale. He used to say, whatever you do, you actually become, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
So over here, well, what I'm saying is, well, just to kind of close this whole thing down, is what I found out is that while going through the prosperity aspect, I found out that the prosperity is all about God. So that's how I gave myself all into God, and that's why I am right here. But truly, I get up at the 2:45 in the morning to start my devotional. And truly, I do my devotional. I do this in English and I do it in Spanish. But then what happens is, by doing it every day, I reminded of what I did, and that peace that I have from that, because they the the devil is always over here trying to steal
Mm.
your
Yeah.
peace.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, how do you walk in peace? How do you walk in peace? The only way to walk in peace is if for me, by searching for God in everything that I do, looking for His hand in everything that we do. So, by reading the Bible for myself, I have what I have found is God's character, and His character is that He keeps all of His promises, and that everything He does for us is for our own good to begin
But
with. And
Pablo,
then
aren't you doing the same thing though? And I go back to this. You're reading the scriptures, but you're also acting on those scriptures. You're teaching yourself how to be like God when you're reading your scriptures. You're not only reading it, but just the relationship that we have, right? You bring peace. When I come to you with anything, I mean, you give me another perspective on how to look at view things. Where's that coming from? That's coming from what you learned from the scriptures. And this is why it's so important to put the scriptures in our lives and let it be part of our lives, because we not only take it in, but we give it out. And this is what we're doing with this show, right? We're taking what we've learned and now we're sharing it with the world. Why? Because this is where we find the peace that we're looking for. We are the peace we're looking for because it
you,
lives within us.
what you're saying is completely correct. See, what I'm trying to emphasize is the fact is I do this thing. I am intentional in getting up at
Yes.
2:45 in the morning to do this, and then I continue throughout my day. So by being intentional, setting a time for my scripture to do my to spend time with God, I have a relationship. I have started a relationship with Him, and for me to come back the next day and say, okay, God, what are we going to talk about today? What do you have to teach me today? See, it's going getting up in the morning, not with that feeling, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. No, no. I get up anxious about wanting to learn more from God. See, that's the big thing.
So you
That's
found your purpose. This is what I'm hearing. You found your purpose, your
divine
divine
purpose.
purpose.
I'm getting my divine purpose strictly from Him, and then
Right.
what's happening is once I get that, you know, Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do everything through Christ,"
Yes, you
and
can.
that's something that's embedded in my mind. So now you think about it, right? So I am here. I am. I do not know the too many scriptures, but the one that stuck with me is Philippians 4:13. I can do everything through Christ, who strengthens me. So when I finish reading my scripture, I might not have understood it completely, but now I'm walking out of there with a purpose, a divine purpose, and I'm saying I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me. Right now, when that happens, is I believe for myself, I'm definitely walking in peace. I'm definitely walking in peace, and I have that
Yeah.
confidence. And I think that that confidence. You have been to my office, right, Gigi? In my office, that confidence is right there. I'm shining right there, and people see that, and it's like, hey Pablo, what did you have this morning? Says, no, it's what I have every morning. I get into my scripture, have a relationship with God. I go in there, spend time with Him. It's being intentional. We're talking about finding that peace. Finding that peace. I'm saying be intentional with God. Get the. You want to have a relationship with Him. Get into the Scripture. When you get into the Scripture, you're gonna find. You're gonna get that confidence. The confidence that you're gonna get is because you see that all the promises that God has made, they have become reality. It is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And when he talk about Israel, he's talking about his people. We are his people. We're all his people. See, you talk about the Abraham, right? Abraham, he came from a pagan family to begin with. He was selected by God because he knew that God knows the beginning to the end, the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
He knew what Abraham was capable of doing. He knew that when he asked him to give up his son Isaac, he was going to be obedient to everything. He's going to be the example. Going to write everything on the Bible. He knew everything from the
Yeah.
beginning. So what I'm saying is that the Holy Scriptures is for everyone. He started with
Yeah.
Abraham because he was going to be the example of faith, of saying, "No, come, follow me, right? Wherever I go." And that's really what it is. Now,
So
now you like
beautiful.
me to.
Let's switch over to Spanish. Yes.
Okay. Muy buenos días. Buenos días, buenas noches. Estamos hablando de cómo podemos caminar con la confianza y tener paz y propósito en nuestras vidas. Y yo me estoy usando como un ejemplo aquí en esto, en la que yo me levanto a las 2:45 de la mañana y me pongo a estudiar la Biblia, me pongo a hacer mis devocionales. Y cuando hago eso, lo que estoy haciendo, estoy siendo intencional en separando tiempo para estar con Dios. Y cada vez que abro mi Biblia, le digo, Papito Dios, por favor dime qué es lo que yo estoy supuesto a, a llevar conmigo hoy día. Y eso es el principio de mi día. Y haciendo eso, me ayuda a mí a poder caminar con confianza, porque estoy hablando de Filipenses 4:13, que dice, todo lo puedo en Cristo, porque a veces no comprendo la escritura, pero sí salgo de ahí con la confianza que durante el día Dios me va a hacer, va a pasar algo durante mi día, y que sí, todo yo lo puedo con Cristo. Él me va a enseñar a mí exactamente lo que estaba supuesto a sacar de aquí. Ahora, hablando sobre la fe, ¿no? Nosotros tenemos diferentes clases de fe. Aquí empecé hablando sobre la historia de Simón y Andrés en la Biblia. Los dos son pescadores, pescadores. Ellos se levantan en la mañana para pescar. Tenía sus manos ahí todas cortadas, por eso sabían a qué hora iban a terminar de pescar, a qué hora regresaba. La esposa sabía que a qué hora tenía que tener la comida lista. Tenía una rutina completa. En la mañana, en la noche, todo lo que hacía. Sabía que eran pescadores y iban a ser pescadores el resto de su vida. Pero ¿qué es lo que sucedió ahí? Ahí caminando por en Galilea, viene ahí Jesús. Y Jesús le dice, ven, sígueme, sígueme. Claro, esto es después de que hace el gran milagro de los peces. Entonces, después de haber visto eso, entonces sí, es fácil para Simón decir, ok, muy bien, te voy a seguir porque no sé cómo lo hiciste, pero quiero saber un poquito más de ti. Eso es una cosa. La otra cosa es que al decir, ven, sígueme, esa es una invitación a conocerle a Dios, una invitación. Dios está diciendo, ven, camina conmigo, ven, aprende conmigo, ven y ve, ven a ver. Todas esas cosas. En este momento, Papito Dios no va a venir acá. Estamos en el año 2026. En este momento como lo que yo tengo de referencia viene todo de la Biblia, pero yo sí sé que todo lo que está pasando en la Biblia está pasando ahora mismo. ¿Cómo es que nosotros vamos a nutrir nuestra fe? ¿Cómo es que vamos a nutrir esta fe para obtener esa paz y la confianza que necesitamos para caminar en propósito? Yo he logrado conseguir esa paz por parte de la Biblia. La palabra de Dios es inmutable. Aquí lo que yo encuentro es el carácter de Dios. El carácter de Dios, que Dios, Él cumple con todas sus promesas. Tenemos ejemplos en la Biblia de su cumplimiento de todo. Podemos aquí hablar un poquito de Abraham, ¿no? Abraham, él y su familia eran paganos, pero Dios le eligió a Abraham, porque Dios es el alfa y el omega, Él sabe el principio y el final. Él sabía que Abraham iba, cuando el tiempo iba a llegar, que le iba, Dios le dijo que le ofrezca a su hijo Isaac como que él lo iba a hacer, que iba a ser obediente. Una cosa, entonces, Dios sabe el principio al final y uno ve todo eso de aquí para allá. También uno puede ver que cuando uno no es obediente, cómo le hace todas las cosas muy difíciles. Yo me puedo sentar aquí y hablar historias con ustedes todo el día. De veras, puedo hablar sobre la parte cuando Abraham no fue obediente, cuando mandó a Canaán y después cuando estaba por Canaán, ¿qué es lo que pasó? Hubo una hambruna y ¿qué es lo que pasó? Él se fue corriendo para Egipto. Cuando llegó a Egipto, ¿qué es lo que sucede? El faraón está ahí con Sara, pero sabía que si se presentaba como pareja, algo malo iba a suceder. Entonces le dice a Sara que le diga que son hermanos para protegerse él mismo. Y es así como ser hermanos, entonces le ofrece un poco de regalos para conseguirle a la hermana, digamos, pero después sale la verdad. Pero todas estas cosas, Dios lo sabía desde el principio al final. Aquí, eso es parte de esto ahora. Yo regreso conmigo a mi propia paz. Mi propia paz empieza en la mañana, dedicando mi tiempo con Dios. Y después lo que yo hago es, hago mis devocionales diarios, hago en español y en inglés. Y después cojo eso y durante mi día, lo que sucede es, yo sé que yo tengo una confianza que de veras Dios está conmigo. Dios está ahí. Tengo una paz que sobrepasa cualquier entendimiento. Eh, Cualquier cosa que pase, nadie me puede robar mi paz. Yo soy el que puedo entregar mi paz, pero es más fácil entregarlo si yo no estoy con Dios. A mantenerme con Dios, al tener una relación con Dios. Porque lo que yo he hecho, como porque ya me levanto en la mañana para hacer mis devociones, todo, ahora yo tengo una relación con Dios. Y cada vez que me levanto ahora, y yo sé por dónde dejé, digo, ok, papito Dios, ahora, ¿qué me vas a enseñar ahora? ¿Qué me vas a enseñar ahora? ¿Y cómo es que tengo que usar eso durante mi día? Y en realidad, esto me ha ayudado a mí de una manera que sobrepasa todo entendimiento. Lo que me ha sucedido es, yo soy contador público. Como contador público, ahora estoy pasando más tiempo con Dios, pero mi negocio, eh, yo, mi negocio ha crecido, tengo más gente que trabaja para mí, somos más eficientes con todo. Tengo una organización ya mediana, pero el negocio ha subido y en este momento yo no tengo que ir a golpear puertas para que vengan clientes. Los clientes vienen donde mí. Eso es una bendición de Dios. Una bendición de Dios. Yo lo único que me pongo es agradecer a Dios por todo lo que Él hace por mí. Y ciertamente Él conoce mi corazón y sabe que yo soy una persona muy bondadosa también. Sabe que como tengo más gente que está trabajando aquí conmigo, estoy dando de comer a todas esas familias. Entonces es algo muy especial. Porque Dios también nos ayuda por todos los lados aquí. Ahora, eh, esta paz que todos buscamos, solamente es posible si tenemos a Dios con nosotros. Cuando tenemos a Dios con nosotros, Dios nos protege. Dios nos protege porque seriamente es nuestra paz, es la paz de Dios. Eh, si, si, si ustedes se ponen a pensar aquí, cuando ustedes han dejado o ustedes han regalado su paz a alguien, de a de veras, si se ponen a pensar que en realidad ahora tiene que pedir perdón porque dejó, que regaló su paz, eso, eso no debería haber pasado. Pero si usted está con Dios y tiene una relación con Él siempre va a estar al lado suyo y decir, Pablo, no vale la pena, no vale la pena, no, quédate aquí conmigo, vas a ver que todo va a estar bien. Esa es la paz que uno tiene cuando está con Dios. Ahora, para caminar en esa paz, uno tiene que conocer el carácter de Dios. La mejor manera de conocer el carácter de Dios es estudiando la Biblia. La Biblia es inspirada por Dios mismo, todo desde el principio al final. Y eso le va a dar a usted la confianza de caminar con el propósito que Dios le ha dado para usted. El propósito suyo, si usted todavía no sabe cuál es su propósito, tal vez porque no lo está escuchando. Usted quiere saber cuál es su propósito, ponga a estudiar la Biblia y pregúntele a Papito Dios, ¿cuál es el propósito mío? ¿Qué es lo que yo estoy supuesto a hacer aquí en este mundo? Por favor, ayúdame, guíame. Y va a ver, usted sigue con su Biblia y simplemente cada uno de nosotros estamos equipados con diferentes dones, talentos, y cada uno de esos nosotros estamos supuestos a usar para edificar el reino de Dios. Les dejo ahí con eso para seguir la próxima semana. Gigi had just finished saying that that each one of us, God has given us special gifts, and those gifts we're supposed to use to help God
Serve others.
to serve others. That's really it. Okay, that's
And
our
that's the
benefit.
only time that we're walking in peace and confidence. That's from my own life experience. When I was disconnected from God, I was not walking in peace. I was not walking in confidence. I was always worried, concerned, stressed, you name it. And only when we get reconnected to our creator, we call it God, you may call it anything else, but there's a creator that's in charge of our lives. And we walk in his plan. And that's when we achieve peace, confidence, for sure. So this was a lovely show. Thank you so much, Pablo. Thank you everyone for watching us. Your last final note, Pablo?
Yes, no, may God be with you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you for
Bye bye.
joining us. See you next week.